really important. Ms. Morales is back in here, but she's got to leave pretty soon here. So we're going to go back to item 14 on the agenda, correct?
Get the letter read.
13?
13 or 14?
14.
No, she's
No,
got
13.
13. Okay, item 13 of the agenda, presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding the issuance of a determination notice for 4% housing tax credits for Creek Bend Apartments in San Antonio. Ms. Morales.
Good afternoon. Teresa Morales, Director of Multifamily Bonds. Item 13 includes the issuance of a determination notice for Creek Bend Apartments. This is a 4% tax credit application where the private activity bonds will be issued by a local issuer, the San Antonio Housing Trust, PFC. Normally, consideration of the issuance of a determination notice would not come before the board. As part of the adoption of the streamlined approach to local issuer 4% tax credit transactions, in April of 2021, staff reserved flexibility on bringing these applications to the board if there were letters of opposition that were received and a desire of those individuals to address the board directly, or if a waiver of a QAP requirement was requested. The decision to issue a determination notice is before you because of letters of opposition that have been received from several elected officials as well as members of the community. Creek Bend Apartments proposes the new construction of 312 units in San Antonio, serving general population households at 30%, 60%, and 70% of the area median income. The application was submitted in July, and while it has been under review, there have been opposition letters received from State Senator Donna Campbell, State Representative Mark DeRazio, Bexar County Commissioner Grant Moody, and Dr. John Chapman, Superintendent for Comal ISD. Several letters of opposition have also been submitted from individual members of the community. The applicant also submitted a letter in response to some of that opposition. All of these letters are included in your board package. Staff has completed the program, underwriting, and compliance reviews and deems the application to have met the QAP requirements and is therefore recommending that a determination notice in the amount of $4,972,498 in 4% housing tax credits be issued.
Okay, so this is a 4% deal where we are not the bond issuer.
Correct.
And again, on 4% deals is not a competitive award. It's you check all the boxes, dot all the I's, cross all the T's. The department automatically has to approve it. Well, I'm sure there are some exceptions as to if we deem something wasn't true or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we can't say, like, you have to vote staff recommendation necessarily, but yeah, it's pretty much not quite ministerial, but close.
Okay, and so as it's presented to us, and this is still just a 4% determination saying if you get all your other stuff done and you come back to us with your cost certification, then we establish the actual bond amount or the tax credit amount.
Correct. There is no legal requirement that a determination notice be issued. It's deemed by the industry to be a comfort letter of sorts that they can provide to their business partners indicating that the state allocating agency has looked at their application and has deemed it to have met the QAP requirements relating to threshold eligibility, underwriting, compliance, and have determined a preliminary amount of tax credits that they could be eligible to receive. But then on the back end, when it comes back for cost certification, that's when we shore up, based on actual cost, the actual number of or amount of 4% credits.
Okay, so if anyone's trying to stop this project from proceeding forward, this isn't the right department that actually stops it. We're just, again, it's if we were doing the bonds or if we're doing other direct loans and stuff like that, maybe, but on the 4% notice, they're checking the boxes. We say, yes, you're eligible because you checked the boxes.
In a way, we are a party to the transaction by allocating or issuing a preliminary amount of credits to be eligible for. Typically in this type of situation, what I've done is refer individuals to the issuer. They're required to hold a public hearing to meet federal law. And so that is really the opportunity for individuals to make their comments known to the issuer, who is really the largest portion of the funding stack.
Right, okay. Do any board members have questions for Ms. Morales on this? And I'll get to public comment here in a second.
Does the board have the authority to say no? Don't give them the comfort letter.
Yes.
Do we have
And
to support
basically,
that?
that's what you're asking us.
No, that's what the other speakers are about to ask us.
I'm saying
Staff is
you-
recommending that
you're
the
recommending
determination
the-
notice be issued.
That you give the comfort letter to.
Correct.
And that's because the application has met everything in our rules that it says it has to meet.
Correct.
And the reason for the appearance is to just inform us of what's going on behind the
Correct.
scenes.
Correct. Transparency.
Okay.
Okay, if any members of the public wish to address the board on this, please come forward and sign in on the sheet and then identify who you're with. Out of curiosity, are there going to be multiple speakers here? Okay, no.
Good afternoon. I'm Mason Brand, a retired Marine Corps officer, a husband and father of 2 children, and I live in the area. We have 5,256 signatures on our Change.org petition in county against this project. This is supported by the strong letters of opposition from Representative DeRazio, Senator Campbell, Bexar County Commissioner Grant Moody, and even Comal SD Superintendent Dr. John Chapman. There's no school buses provided in this area. There's no sidewalks on highly dangerous Borkfeld Drive. Should the future children in these apartments walk to schools in the heat, the rain, the cold, or the shoulders of highly dangerous Borkfeld Drive during peak traffic hours with its twists, its turns, and its blind spots? The 2 driveways planned for this project are subject of highly dangerous vehicular blind spots being presented from the frontage road onto Borkfeld Drive, with blind spots brought on both sides of the steep hill in front of the project. People are going to be put at an unacceptable increased risk for traffic accidents at this location because of this traffic quagmire. Additionally, our parents will not stand for San Antonio City via buses coming in and out of our local Kamala SD schools when there can be no guarantee that criminal elements will not end up on these public bus routes and into our campuses. This is supported in Dr. Chapman's letter. The environmental site assessment reeks of poisoning any future occupants of these apartments. This 37-acre property runs all downhill on a steep grade slope northward immediately into Cibolo Creek, a contributing zone to the Edwards Aquifer. You mentioned the Houston Housing Authority being raided in October by the FBI and HUD Inspector General's office because a similar project was planned on top of toxic ash that was deemed acceptable. Although the Creek Bend environmental site assessment remarks some of these toxin levels are acceptable, 3 are not marked acceptable, and none of these should be marked acceptable as it's right next to Cibolo Creek. As an example, polychlorinated biphenyls are highly carcinogenic and can stunt reproductive system development in adolescents. There's also radon gas being emitted from the ground, according to the report. This property basically was used as a landfill, and now we know that TCEQ is conducting an investigation into this property. Petcor and the San Antonio Housing Trust should have had the environmental site assessment performed before they purchased the property. I thank you for your time.
Mr. Brandt, thank you for being here. Thank you for your persistent communications that have been reaching the department and the board. Again, as I was trying to explain before, and that works with the same thing with the Houston project you referenced. Unfortunately, the way the tax credit process works, this particular type of tax credit and the process, we're not the right group that can stop this. All those other bond issuers and financiers and TCEQ and local, those are the groups that can do it. If this was a 9% application, all those factors that you brought up could really have impact. But unfortunately, with the way this is right now, we're not there's not a whole lot of leeway that we can do unless we start breaking some rules. Mr. Martian?
Is the property zoned for the purpose they're intending to use it?
My understanding is it was rezoned when they convinced the property owner to allow the city to rezone it for multifamily housing. And then once that was completed, they then purchased the property.
And it's in the Comal.
So
District.
to be accurate, because I know not all of you may be familiar with that area, this is in northern Bexar County, and the city of San Antonio annexed 1,000 feet to the left and 1,000 feet to the right of 281, mostly against people's will prior to House Bill 347 passing. Either way, the circumstances exist as it is. If the area is zoned for Comal independent school districts, and there's a long history behind why other school districts in that area did not provide schools in northern Bexar County.
I understand what I'll get right to my
Yes,
question.
sir.
I'm sorry. It's zoned apartment. If they weren't seeking 4% credits that we basically are given that responsibility by the federal government, they could build an apartment complex there, just a market apartment complex.
Sure, and our community would still be opposed to it based
I understand
upon.
that.
Yes, sir.
I totally understand that, but I'm trying to get that straight in my mind that
Yes, sir.
that us saying no doesn't stop apartments from going there.
No, because the city of San Antonio has rezoned the property for multifamily housing,
Yep. Okay.
and our
Thank you.
community would be opposed to the project regardless.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Again, we appreciate your comments. Again, Teresa, staff's recommendation is just to issue the determination notice at this time, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Would anyone care to make a motion on, oh, do we, well, the motion is asking for staff's determination agreement to issue the determination. Anything else you say could only work against you. Okay, would anyone care to make a motion?
I will.
Mrs. Conroy.
I move the board approve the issuance of a determination notice for 4% housing tax credits for Creek Bond Apartments. All is described, conditioned, and authorized in the board action request, resolution, and associated documents on this item.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Conroy, seconded by Mr. Harper. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing-
Mr.
Nope,
Chairman,
sorry.
I would like to be shown as abstaining on the vote.
Okay, so 5-4.
No, Mr. Chairman, my vote is no.
4 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention. Motion carries. Okay, thank you all. So noted. Ms. Morales is up in another legislative hearing, so we're going to go out of order again.